Now, after further review, a Clemson student's perspective on sports.
It's AFR time, baby. Let's get up. Let's get rolling.
That's right.
Personal foul, 69. Offense. He was giving them the business. He played it down.
Okay, so if Trevor Lawrence isn't either the second or third string quarterback in the fall, I shave my head and you get a tattoo?
You got to get a head tattoo. You got to shave your
Get a head tattoo. Now we're talking.
And get a head tattoo.
The personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
And now your host, Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Well, good evening, everyone. AFR is back on your radio. Jay Smith, Bradley, Kendall, John Haidt filling in for Evan McDowell
For the time being.
For the time being,
Yep.
Evan will join us shortly, but we appreciate John helping us out in the meantime. My goodness, Bradley.
81 AFRs down.
81
Well,
episodes
soon to be down.
of AFR. But let's talk about what we're going to get into tonight. We're going to talk about some
Come a long
changes
way.
to college football for this
a little
upcoming season.
A little bit of preview. This is, I guess you could say, the Daniel night because Evan's working over at Daniel High School, working the softball game, and then we've got a buddy of ours, Daniel Green, coming on later in the show once he gets out of whatever he's doing tonight.
He is at work right now, but he's a student photographer for the athletic department, works for the athletic communications staff, and he will be joining us probably mid 9 o'clock hour, maybe on the later end, just depends on when he's able to get over to the station. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about, so we'll go ahead and dive right into it after further review.
You referred to it earlier. College football is great, but could it be better? Could the greatest sports known to man be improved? Jay, you think so?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But is it broke? That's the question.
It's not broke, but there are, I think, a couple of aspects of the game.
There's a lot of people out there who would disagree.
Over the last couple years, specifically with kind of how the game is, football has changed in general. It's developed a lot, but sometimes maybe developed a little bit too much.
I'll tell you what doesn't get enough attention, in my opinion, especially, well, it did after this LSU Texas A&M game. But it's the overtime rules.
Yeah, that's kind of what sparked this whole discussion. The targeting rule has obviously been around for a few years now. That's kind of always been a hotly debated topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, the overtime rules, even in the NFL as well, have really kind of become a big topic of conversation by a lot of fans. A lot of fans that are pretty mad, by the way, some of their teams had games stripped away from them because of the rules.
Well, I think the NFL overtime rules, I think the consensus across the board there is that most people don't like the fact that if the team possesses the ball first, scores a touchdown, it's over.
I agree. I never once enjoyed that rule just because I think it's, if you're going to have an overtime period, yes, I know what the NFL is trying to do there. They're trying to kind of quicken it up and not have a tie like they had a long time, many times throughout the last couple years. But, when you're the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patriots come down and score first possession, you're like, well, shoot.
Yeah.
We had zero opportunity right there if you're an offensive player.
Well, the coin toss decided the outcome of that game,
Exactly.
which in a lot of ways is not fair. But, hey, listen, if you want to get in and talk to us about some potential rule changes for this coming season, the Northland Communication Hotline is 864-654-7627. You're always welcome to text in on the Health Dare text line. That is 864-986-1566. So definitely taking calls this evening if anybody wants to get in. But
we'd love to hear from you.
Going back to college football and some of the rule changes, they mostly have to do because the NCAA Football Rules Committee met this week. And I kind of think this is interesting because it's the NCAA Football Rules Committee. They propose the changes. Then the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel, what a title, has to review and approve.
Put that on a business card.
Yeah, review and approve the committee's proposal before they take into effect. And that oversight panel review is scheduled for April 17th. So there's a few proposals out there right now after the meeting this past week by the Rules Committee, but nothing will be decided until a little bit later on down the road.
And even if it is decided, it won't be taken into effect, you would think, for the next couple years, maybe towards the 2021-2022 seasons when they would actually start initiating those kind of rules. But like we said before, the targeting rule and the overtime rule were kind of the two topics of debate here. I guess you could start with the targeting rule, start with that one. Personally, I've always thought that they kind of overdo it a little bit. The whole concussion discussion and all, players' safety, all that. It's important. I think it's not meant to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it gets a little bit overdone. And I think a lot of referees, what they're told to do is call the targeting foul. You can always go back and change it, but you can't change it if you don't call it. So that's kind of why you see a lot of those calls made, and then the replays will go back and say, well, could have been a targeting, could have not been. Usually they just side with the fact that it was targeting and a player's kicked out.
Well, I'm reading here that there's an adjustment on targeting under review right now that is regarding instant replay. And so if targeting can't be confirmed, then the officials will overturn the targeting foul. So essentially, the call on the field stands isn't going to be a thing under this potential rule change.
So it would either be confirmed or not.
It would either be confirmed or it would be overturned. There is no the call on the field stands, because usually we at home, people interpret the call on the field stands to be there's no evidence to indicate.
Exactly. It's 100% sure that the call is correct, whatever they called originally. That's what they view. The fans view the refereeing.
Oh no,
to be.
no. See, if the referee says to me the call is confirmed, that's 100% guarantee. If he says, and I may be mistaken, but I've always interpreted the call on the field stands, they're not able to definitively say whether or not it did happen.
No, you're right there. Yeah. What I'm saying is, what it's always been to me up until just a couple of years ago, call on the field stands, that means whatever they called, that's what they're going to go with. There's no evidence, like you said before, no evidence to overturn it. I'd rather you just have, hey, if there's not evidence, just call the other way, or just, make it black and white. Don't leave that little middle ground where we really can't tell, but we're just going to go with what we called. Just make a decision.
Another interesting wrinkle to this proposed rule change, which actually the committee that's proposing this new rule is being chaired by David Shaw, head coach out of Stanford. Yeah,
hey, go for the smart guy. That's a smart decision.
Yeah, and he was more for the stiffer penalties associated with like getting a successive targeting call, so like a second foul in the same season. So Shaw was proposing that particular player would be suspended not only for that game that he got the second targeting call in, but the next game after that.
Really, that is
kind of steep
for basketball. If you instituted this with like flagrants and all that, when players are only staying for like a year, that kind of gets a little bit intense. But I don't like that. I think one game on its own there is fine.
I have a lot of issues with suspending players for the rest of the game. Okay, you're playing a sport that at most you're going to have 15 games a year.
Yeah.
So if you're, disqualifying a player from the rest of the competition, and then he does it again and you disqualify him not only from that one but then the next, all of a sudden he's missed out on 3 games.
Yeah.
If you're
that's
an
a quarter
average,
of the season.
And you're if you're an average team, you're going to play 12 games. Or maybe 13 if you get to a rinky-dink bowl game. But I don't know if that's really fair to take away that player's a third of his season.
Yeah, especially when you get towards the end of the season and you could potentially have it taken away from a conference championship game or anything like that. I think it just gets...
Should that apply? Should the same rules apply? You think you think it should be blanket across the board?
I think once you get into postseason play, they should be wiped out. And I believe for the playoff, they do that. I don't know if you have to sit out for a half if you got a targeting foul maybe during that conference championship game. I'd have to check up on that. I think they should be wiped out. I think soccer does it like that with the yellow cards and the red cards. Once you get to like a postseason play, they just completely wipe them out. What I would want to see happen for the targeting rules, I'd like to see them institute what the basketball rule committee does with a flagrant 1 and a flagrant 2. Because I think most of the times when a targeting foul is called, a lot of the times it's not a very large hit. Yes, it is head-to-head contact. In the rule book, it says if you lead with the crown, you hit the other guy in the head, that's targeting. Technically, that's right. But I think a lot of times it can be taken down a little bit. And we can try to get a little bit more lenient with how we call those very strict penalties.
Well, I think we've even seen some targeting calls been made where it wasn't necessarily intentional, but
that's what I'm saying.
Someone
an unintentional hit like that, maybe, on a run play to the outside, then you can just knock it down to maybe like a flagrant 1, a 15-yard penalty, give the guy a warning, and go from there.
That's another thing that I'm kind of on the fence about, where I think the maximum penalty in terms of yardage should be 10 yards. I don't think it should be 15.
I like 15. I think if you're going to do it like that, make the 15 one the targeting penalty.
I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't think 15 yards. I don't know. It kind of goes. That reminds me of like the spot foul call in the NFL when it comes to pass interference.
I love the spot foul call.
I don't like it at all.
College, I think it's different because in the professional game, players should be able to understand how to go about every single play and are a little bit more careful with how they approach the game. So in the NFL, I think it's fine the way that they have it now. College, I probably wouldn't do the spot foul because that seems a little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I think there's no black and white answer to this question. I think there's a lot of gray. I think with most things, most issues that are debated, there's a lot of gray area. Yeah. And so I think you will continue to see officials, I mean, health experts. Yeah. I mean, you're starting to see now, like, I think each NFL team, like starting a few years ago, they had, have a neurologist, a third-party neurologist. Like, this is becoming standard, and not only professional sports, but also collegiate sports. And so they're going to keep tweaking the rules to just make sure that they're doing it fairly and they're implementing the right repercussions for when you commit a targeting foul. Because, I mean, in the NFL, there's no ejection.
Well, they'll eject you in the NFL.
But it has to be particularly egregious.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I think in the college game, we start to nitpick a little bit.
I mean, look at the hits you've seen in the AAF.
Yeah.
I kind of...
Well, that's kind of why the AAF is so highly...
I kind of laugh bringing them up. But seriously, like the AAF made a lot of noise, like on social media, specifically Twitter, their opening night because of some of the hits that we were seeing.
Yeah. But I mean, just look at the college game compared to the NFL, though. I know the guys in the NFL are bigger, but you got younger guys. They might not know how to tackle as well as some of the guys in the NFL do, so it's a little bit different.
All right, well, let's go to the phone lines. We've got Clemson Dad on with us. Clemson Dad, I hadn't heard from you in a while, man. How you been?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing well.
Can't complain.
Good for you. Do you think Kyler Murray's going to go number one in the draft?
I do, personally. I believe... Yeah, I believe with Cliff Kingsbury now the coach at the Arizona Cardinals, I think if you take back his quote that he had from about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he said, if Kyler Murray's available, I'm taking him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think the fan base as well, the Arizona fan base, is not a big believer in Josh Rosen. I don't think he really fits the Cliff Kingsbury system. And I think we learned last year what taking an Oklahoma Heisman winning quarterback can do for your franchise with the first overall pick. So, yeah, I'm taking Kyler Murray first pick.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just want to get you guys' take on it. And then another thing in NFL, a lot of franchise tagging going on. I noticed a lot of players are getting the franchise tag today. Clowney with the Texans got a non-exclusive tag.
I saw that.
I did see that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a difference in a regular franchise tag and a non-exclusive. Unless they match somebody that gives him an offer, is the way I understand it. If somebody matches it or wants him, they have to give up 2 first-round draft picks or something. Is that correct?
Clowney is kind of a unique situation with Clowney because for 2 reasons. One, the Texans can kind of decide whether they want to franchise tag him as a linebacker or a defensive lineman, and that comes with different stipulations in terms of the amount of pay that he gets. They also have until about July 15th to decide whether they want to sign him to a long-term deal. So there's a couple points involved in that franchise tag.
They don't want to lose Clowney. I mean, they drafted him first overall in 2014, and I mean, he's had a strong last couple of years. I don't think he quite had the start.
Yeah, he had a great year last year
that everyone was expecting, but he's done well these last couple of years. And from everything that I've seen, both sides want to continue working towards a long-term deal, which I think is great for the Texans.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Watt is on the end of his tour, but I'm not sure. But still pretty good.
I mean, it's interesting that a lot of guys getting the franchise tag right now are pass rushers. You got Clowney. You got DeMarcus Lawrence at Dallas. You've got who's from Seattle. Got
Frank
from
Atlanta.
Clark. Yeah, and then Grady Jarrett for Atlanta. So a lot of pass rushers got franchise tag.
There's a bunch of them come out today.
And I've never really been a huge fan of the franchise tag in particular because I think it's almost like a cop-out for a lot of these teams. Like with what happened with Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers, it just lengthens out that process that they got to go through to finally reach that long-term deal. I wish NFL guys would just make a decision already. Like, do you want the guy? Like with Clowney, what else do you need to see?
Well, it's tough for the players because it keeps them in limbo because it's only a 1-year thing, and they don't really know what their status is going to be at the end of that year, unless they iron something out.
And if you get an injury at the very beginning of the year, I mean, suddenly you're in a point where, you know, the team is unsure if they want to re-sign you. The player might not be healthy enough to come back at full strength like they were before, and it just becomes kind of an unfortunate circumstance. So I kind of wish, they would maybe just leave it up to 1-year franchise tag because, like, Le'Veon Bell had like 3 different franchise tag years. It was almost like, come on, let's just do something here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'll leave you guys with this. I know somebody there. Is John there tonight?
John is. He's right there in the production studio right now.
Yeah, I know he's a Pittsburgh guy. What do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers should do in the draft? And I'll take that off the air.
All right, well, John, we'll let you answer that question since that was directed towards you. But thanks.
How about finding Antonio Brown?
Thanks for calling in, Clemson Dad. We appreciate it.
Let you answer.
Well, I think you need to go, they need to break the mold of what they've been doing, which that is getting an overrated defensive back from the ACC Coastal because that seems to just be the move. I would try to shore up a middle linebacker. If Devin Bush were to fall, you could always upgrade all parts of that secondary, and at some point you're going to need to get another receiver or running back.
You got to throw someone in there to replace Antonio Brown.
The way they draft though, they can. I mean, the Steelers have been hitting home runs with wide receivers second, third, fourth round the last handful of years with James Washington, Juju Smith-Schuster. Martavis Bryant was a 4th round pick before he, kind of fell apart there. Yeah. So they draft receiver well. I have faith in them to take him in the later rounds, but I'd go defense in the first round.
And I guess you got confidence enough in Mason Rudolph as your backup quarterback of the.
He's got to be better than Josh Dobbs.
Of the future. Anyone's better than Josh Dobbs.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, the Steelers, at this point, they need to focus on how to clear up all the off-the-field stuff that's been going on. Because it has become a soap opera up in Pittsburgh. And for the longest time, the Steelers were one of the most well-run organizations in all of sports.
Yeah.
A lot to clean up there, not only from a player standpoint, but an organizational standpoint.
And I think they will. I think they'll be able to turn it around. Kind of reminds me of Florida State a little bit.
Maybe not to the
highest degree, but it was just kind of the off-field drama was kind of holding them back, and it seemed like all the headlines for the Steelers were non-football related.
Yeah, but if you're Antonio Brown, just shut your mouth and play football, as they would say. I'm not calling out the shut up and dribble campaign there, but
let's keep it down. Disagree. I don't know. I think there's positives to that kind of rhetoric, but at the end of the day, like, it was detrimental to not only himself but the organization, and so
without a doubt.
We'll have to iron all that out. But got to take a quick break. First break of the show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stick around.
Everyone has someone in their lives that could use a little surprise, a little pick-me-up. You want to deliver those smiles, but who has the time? School, work, and more. Try Urban Nirvana's online gift certificate. Buy and print it right from your own computer. A great way to treat your wife for making all those tailgate preparations. Your college student for all the hard work. Or mom, just because. Online purchase and print from your computer. Only at urbannirvana.com.
If you are in need of a mattress and you love saving money, the Mattress Outlet in Seneca would like to invite you to shop their huge weekend sale starting Friday, March 8th through Sunday, March 10th. With our biggest discounts yet, save a percentage on select mattresses and you get a foundation free. We'll have our biggest selection available to choose from with options for everyone. You don't want to miss this sale. The Mattress Outlet in Seneca, located off Highway 123 across from Chick-fil-A.
Absolute Waste Management specializes in waste removal services for bulky, unwanted items like old furniture, appliances, construction, debris, and more. Also offering clean-out services for evictions, rental properties, estate liquidations, and foreclosures. Call or text 864-266-7131 for your free, no-obligation quote today. Don't wait. Make the call, schedule an appointment, and say bye to the junk. 864-266-7131 or online at absolutewastemgmt.com.
If your loved one is no longer comfortable living in their own home due to memory loss or aging, Dominion Senior Living is here to help. At Dominion, outstanding physical, emotional, and spiritual care is the standard. Their community offers a modern, comfortable place to call home. Honoring God through service to seniors, Dominion Senior Living at Patrick Square in Clemson and Highway 81 in Anderson. Exclusively designed to promote vitality with support when needed. Visit DominionSeniorLiving.com for more information.
Craving some local nightlife fun? Visit Pub Blue Tuesday through Saturday, 4 p.m. to 11 for live music, pool tables, darts, 20 craft beers on draft, and gourmet pub foods like fresh ground gourmet burgers, duck wings, and elevated sandwiches. Visit BlueMarbleDeli.com for more information and check them out on the Untapped app for a list of current available beers. Blue Marble Deli and Pub Blue, 864-280-6717, 286 Market Street in Seneca next to Los Amigos. You haven't tasted fresh like this.
Graceland Portable Buildings of Pickens is committed to providing high-quality buildings at a great deal, offering buildings for any need, utility sheds for storage, workshops, cabins with front porches, even large garage buildings with roll-up doors. Manufactured to last, Graceland's buildings come with warranties, free delivery, free setup, and the best rent-to-own program in the business. Visit the sales lot at 2331 Walhalla Highway in Pickens or call 864-898-9569.
Founders Federal Credit Union hits it out of the park with all your financial needs and offers all the online conveniences of the big banks, like Founders Online, Founders app with mobile deposit, and much more. Not a Founders member? Visit RelaxJoinFounders.com or our Clemson office to see if you qualify for membership. Services require credit evaluation. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA and a proud partner of the Clemson Tigers.
Washington has come to its senses by reducing our tax burden. Now we can take advantage to reinvest in ourselves and our businesses to continue our economic growth. I'm George Jeffries with Metal Building Supply Company. It's a great time to start that business dream of yours or perhaps expand or refurbish your existing facilities. Come see us or call us at 864-295-0506. Talk with me or Kevin Brown about how we can help you, and God bless America.
And now back to After Further Review.
Welcome back. AFR is on your radio. Evan finally joins us in the studio this evening. Evan, it's good to see your face through the glass window.
Is it though?
You are far too kind. happy to be here. Glad I can make
I don't know
that window
if
a
we've
little bit.
mentioned, but the reason that Evan is a tad late to the shows is he's got a job over at Daniel High School calling the women's softball games. That's second year you've been doing this?
Yeah, I did it last spring for mostly the JV team as part of my minor. I needed class credit for it. I did a couple varsity games, but this year, strictly varsity.
Now, I'm sure you've seen that video of the dad announcing those 12U rec ball games where he's just absolutely roasting each player that comes up there. Like, next up, might want to go get your concessions because there's not going to be much action here. And then he announces like the first batter of the game. Hope you're not roasting any softball players out there.
No, I don't know any of those people well enough to act like that. But I did notice that as I was leaving the press box, Monty Lee was in attendance at tonight's game. Yeah, I don't know.
I think he has 3 daughters, and I think they're all about high school age. Maybe
I'm trying to think of the Daniel roster, and I'm not sure of anyone who has the last name Lee. So maybe they play for Easley because that's who they were playing tonight.
I've seen him at Moe's before with his family, and I want to say he's got maybe 1 or 2 high school.
And I'm sure the future softball coach is probably out there occasionally doing a little recruiting.
Could be.
Yep.
Could be. A lot of good players that were out on the field tonight. Easley and Daniel. It was a good game.
All right, well, to catch you up to speed, if you're just tuning in or if you're Evan and you just rolled in, we're talking about potential rule changes for this upcoming season related to college football. And we've talked a little bit about targeting, the overtime rule.
I don't think we got too much into the overtime rule, though. We can still backtrack a little on that.
Hash it out a little bit.
And I think college, I touched on this briefly, but college compared to the NFL, I think college has the right idea on how to go about it. I think in the NFL, it's just a little bit too difficult to do that because the offenses are just so good. And it's just so easy. I mean, heck, there's teams moving the ball down in 3 plays, scoring in the first possession and winning the entire game by scoring a touchdown. I think in college, they got the right idea, but you mentioned this last night, it's a little bit too close. Starting at that 25-yard line.
I am not a fan of starting at the 25. I
agree.
I think that is great if you're a varsity high school. But I want to see teams in this day and age of offensive firepower. Okay, here's one of my proposed, if I had to propose a rule change. I think teams should start at the 40-yard line And I don't think teams should be allowed to attempt a field goal unless they get a first down. If they're at the 40-yard line and they manage a single first down, then they can attempt a field goal. But and again, I understand this would be a really long field goal, like at least 50 yards if they didn't get a first down. Because they would, let's say they get to the 32 and they're kicking from the 40, that's a 50-yard field goal. So it's a long field goal. Not likely they're going to make
college.
it anyway. Yeah, that's a long college field goal. So I think, you could change that potentially, but I still want to see teams starting at the 40. I don't think you have to push them back to the 50. I don't think you have to do kickoffs like in the NFL. But this 25-yard line crap is essentially setting them up.
Chip shot.
It's a chip shot field goal.
If you get like one good running play in there, you get a chip shot field goal. I'd probably move it up a little farther only because I think you still want to have the ability to kick a field goal.
So you think they should be able to kick it
go from like
as
maybe
soon as they don't need a first
30,
down?
35 might be pushing a little bit because that's a 52-yarder.
That's the same.
Maybe around the 33, so you at least have a 50-yarder you can kick.
Well, it needs to be on a 5. It can't. And then we're just going to put it on the 33-yard line.
I don't know. I mean, maybe another thing you could add is not allowing extra points. And I know they do that once you hit like double overtime. I understand why starting in the third overtime, you are forced to go for 2. I get it. At that point, I get it. However, I would really be upset if games started being decided by, this team made an extra point. If you're going to do that, you need to move the 2-point conversion back to like the 10 and make it more difficult because you're putting the ball at the 2 or the 3-yard line. That's not a guaranteed 2 points,
It's not a guarantee, but you have a pretty good chance of one team doing it and one team not. It's more likely for one team to get it than both.
You're looking for games to end in that first overtime.
You want
that game decided as early as possible.
What I want games to end by either the defense stepping up and making a play or the offense making a play. Or, like not let's go for 2 in the fourth overtime and yay, we threw a Orange Crush screenplay and won the game.
Here's a really interesting proposal right here. This was brought up last year, I think on maybe a Mark Packer show. How would you go about having both teams on either end of the field playing offense at the same time? And having both go on at the exact same time? Whoever scores, first or whoever scores.
Who comes
and the other
up
team
with
doesn't.
this stuff?
I don't know, but just imagine watching a football game and having 2 different plays happen at the exact same time going in different end zones.
So there's both offenses and both offenses on the field?
Both defenses on the field at the exact same time.
I feel like that is a recipe for concussions.
That'd be like a tennis match right there.
No,
just having to flip back and forth.
What in the world? How would you officiate?
I thought it was interesting because
how would you officiate that?
They started going into more detail about how you would actually make it happen, and if you had a return, like how would you officiate going through like the entire other game on the other side?
Okay,
theoretically it could never happen.
How about? And I'm being serious here because I think sometimes kickers don't get any credit or love until they don't get any recognition until they fail, and everybody just blast them. What if you did, you play 3 overtimes, standard 3 overtimes.
You get penalty kicks?
And then your penalty kicks are successive field goals that move back in distance.
I've thought about that for the NFL.
That could be interesting.
I think because the NFL kickers are so good, at least gives both teams a pretty decent chance.
You again, if you get to that point, you're basically relying on a kicker to win the game for you, which I think about 99% of college football fans out there would be like, no.
We don't want that.
They'd object to that strongly. And that's understandable, but I think that would add a lot more value to a very underappreciated position.
If you're just doing penalty kicks like that, how about just do a punt off? Whoever can punt it the farthest down the field, then you get the victory.
So consensus here, do you think that overtime as it stands in college football works how it should? Should it be improved?
I don't want to overreact to one game because this all kind of stemmed from
of LSU,
the
Texas
LSU A&M game. And there've been a couple games in the past.
Man, that was entertaining to watch.
Oh, it was great.
I mean, I'd rather watch that than it end in the third overtime because I don't know.
Yeah, and in the day and age of offense, I mean, if your argument is that it's too easy, well, then more teams should be scoring every single time. And it doesn't happen. Like, not a lot of games go double, triple overtime.
Oh, no.
It usually ends
most games
first or
don't
second
go
one.
overtime.
No, so I think right now, you don't need to drastically change the way overtime is structured. I think right now the way it is great, especially for the college game. I think it's spot on.
I think college has it figured out way more than the NFL. I think
trying too hard.
The NFL's trying too hard. They've made some improvements, but as it stands, the NFL overtime has a lot of issues.
Evan, would you keep the college rules the same, or
yes,
like Jay, would you move it back?
No, I would leave the college rules exactly like they are, because when a game does go into overtime, very rarely does it go into 7 overtimes. I think twice ever it's gone into 7 overtimes. So if you're arguing that the college overtime rules are too helpful for the offenses, that's just simply not true, because if you have a good enough red zone defense, then you're still in fine shape, make somebody kick a field goal, and if your offense can get a touchdown, you win.
But you see a lot of plays, and I don't know the percentage of this, but you see a lot of, honestly, I think the highest profile example of this is the national championship with Alabama and Georgia.
I was just
when
about that.
Alabama, in one play, boom.
Well, yeah, because their defense held Georgia to a field goal.
Yeah, but I still
so at that
think
point, they deserve that win.
The breakdowns that you see in overtime by defenses usually result in touchdowns because the offense is so close. They're already in the red zone practically.
But you do have to think about, if you did move the ball back to the 40, that's a lot harder to score than it is from the 25. I mean, that it requires at least 2 or 3 more plays, successful plays, to get in the end zone. So at that point, you are relying a lot on your kickers, because you're only going to get to the 20 or 25, probably get a 4th down, and then have to kick it.
Texter says, can we just have a kickoff with 2 minutes each? Test special teams, offenses, and defenses.
So you'd restart so like in basketball, you would just add a few more minutes.
I think
onto the
that
clock?
You would start off the overtime with 2 minutes. Yeah, so there'd be
team.
there'd be 2 minutes on the clock. Team 1 would kick off.
And
Team 2 would have that 2 minutes to do something.
Oh, I like that.
And if they don't score within that 2 minutes, then the other team gets their 2 minutes.
So what would you do after that?
So basically, you got to run a 2-minute drill and pretty much go 80 yards.
You have to run the 2-minute drill, and I would essentially guarantee for most college offenses that you'd get in field goal range. But
my problem with that is let's say so this is a reason that I kind of like the NFL overtime. If team 1 gets the kickoff, goes 4 and out, they punt it away, and then the other team can score and win. In this scenario, let's say Clemson has 2 minutes to score, they go 4 and out, then you've still got a minute and a half left on the clock, and if you don't get the 4th down conversion, then that's just the end of it. So that's why I don't necessarily like, if you're going to time overtime, make it basically another quarter.
Each team would
that's
get
a long
2 minutes.
time, though.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. I don't want an NFL.
The only thing wrong with the NFL,
it drags it out way too
long. The only thing I think is wrong with the NFL overtime rules is that the first team can win on one possession, like we saw with the Patriots most recently, and the fact that the game itself can end in a tie. Other than that, I'm fine with making it like a 5th quarter.
I don't have an issue with games ending in ties. I don't
in
see
other
why
sports.
I don't see why that's a big deal. It was a thing in college and professional football for many years until they essentially tried to get rid of it with their whole overtime format to kind of force a winner. It's like penalty kicks in soccer. Look at hockey. Look at how many ties there are in NHL hockey.
Well,
hockey is a much different sport.
It takes a while to get to that shootout, though. That's the thing.
It does.
Well, and a lot of regular season games don't go to a shootout. It's like soccer. Like a soccer regular season game can end in a tie, and then only when there has to be a winner is there a shootout.
I don't dislike that idea, though, of giving each team a 2. You could start them at, let's say, their own 25, so they don't have to do a kickoff. But let's say there's no kickoff in the overtime. They start at their own 25. They have 2 minutes and 1 timeout to go length of the field or however far, score points, and then the other team, instead of if Clemson goes 3 and out and has to punt, or goes for it on 4th down and goes 4 and out, they don't, there's no change of the ball. It goes to the 25. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the ball would go to the other team's 25.
And after that first overtime, do you just restart that clock, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't get into like a shootout kind of kickoff.
No, I wouldn't overcomplicate things. I think each overtime would give each team 2 minutes. The ball would be at their own 25-yard line. They'd have a single timeout, and they would do whatever they wanted to do with it.
The only reason I kind of like the college rules right now is because you're almost guaranteed to see a score every single possession. In the day and age of we like to see scoring, we like to see it now, that's the big draw to this overtime style.
If LSU, Texas A&M overtimes had resulted in missed field goals every other overtime, we'd have been bored silly.
Yeah, and that's why I think moving it back just a little bit could help, because right now the way it's structured, you start at the 25, you get a 5-yard running play, all of a sudden you're basically guaranteeing yourself a field goal at that point.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the point of overtime, right? I mean, both teams were tied at the end of regulation. The point of overtime is for somebody to score. So if you're designing overtime for nobody to score, that's completely defeating the purpose of overtime.
You should find a fine median, though.
I'm fine with swapping field goals because, like I said, that's the point. Somebody is supposed to score, and let's say your offense doesn't quite get the job done, but you still make a field goal. That still puts the pressure on the other team to not miss whatever field goal they're about to have to kick.
Yeah,
if they
but
don't score a touchdown.
It doesn't really force them to get in that situation.
And I think the argument that we're honestly missing out on is when you look at a 7 overtime game. Yes, it's rare. It's exceedingly rare. Again, like Evan mentioned,
it's happened.
It's happened only twice in history. It is very entertaining, but you have to think about the physical toll on those players. That's almost like playing another quarter and a half or half.
Yeah.
And the potential for injury goes up, fatigue. I mean that's a real issue. Now,
but again, it's rare.
It's rare. Most of the time, your overtimes, I think it's like 2. I think is average. Maybe 1 to 2.
Probably right around 1.5 to 2.
So it's not that much further that these guys
but
have
you also
to play.
got to think about the number of games that actually do end up going to overtime. It's not very frequent.
No.
It happens very, very rarely.
No.
So, like we said before, I think keeping the rules relatively the same right now.
Sure.
Until we start to see like 4 or 5 consecutive 8 overtime games, maybe then we can address something. But the way it is now, I think it's well run. I think the NFL has more to worry about than college.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think, again, the NFL, which we could spend a long time discussing their overtime issues, has more and should look at the college game. And I think that's the consensus.
Yeah.
Is that the college game.
I don't think the NFL overtime, if it is going to change, it shouldn't change all that much.
First possession scoring, winning the game needs to go away.
First possession,
that needs to go away.
Like I said, that and the fact that the game can end in a tie are the only 2 things that I would nitpick about it. So let's say Team 1 scores a touchdown, then they kick the ball back off Team 2. You have to score a touchdown on that possession, otherwise the game's over. So if you go 4 and out, then you got to go for it on 4th down, whether it's 4th and inches or 4th and 32.
True, but you could see a lot of those overtimes stretch out and get really boring because you could see teams not score for like almost 10 straight minutes.
See games
and that's the point of
it's a whole other quarter, and they're not kicking field goals into the last 2 minutes of that extra quarter.
And at that point, both offenses and defense are already so tired that it's already extremely difficult to even get out.
Well,
of the
that's
field.
exactly the point of overtime. You're trying to see which team is the best. Whichever team's in the best physical shape and can handle playing that much more football probably deserves to win the game.
But from the fans' perspective, if you're having to sit there another 30 extra minutes and see no scoring at all,
and you know what?
That's your defensive battle that Jay was just talking about. He said defense should play a part in winning overtime. Well, if the offenses aren't scoring, the defense must be doing
some part,
right.
but not all the part. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a fine line. I think that both college and pro could tweak it. I think NFL probably should tweak it more, but that also creates issues with consistency, and you see that now with the catch rule in the NFL.
Hopefully we'll get there.
Nobody knows what a catch is, and so if you keep changing the rules, then people are going to get peeved.
They're going to watch the AAF.
They very well might. Do you know off the top of your head what the overtime rules are for the AAF? Has any game in the AAF gone to overtime?
No, I know they're different. I know they start. I want to say they start at like.
That's interesting. We need to look that up during the break.
Yeah, I'll have to look up on that because I know they added a few extra rules because the NFL had a lot of issues and they were trying to make it more entertaining for the fans.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to look that up because they were very, very unique.
Yeah,
it was almost like rugby rules. Like it was very interesting.
Well, we got to cut to another break, but we will definitely dig into the AAF overtime rules and talk about that a little bit when we come back. That's next.
With spring around the corner, Goodyear and the Pendleton Tire Company are kicking savings into high gear. Now through March 31st, get incredible deals on some of our best tires for wet conditions, like the all-weather Goodyear Assurance Weather Ready, built with advanced traction for superior performance on slick roads. Get fresh deals for your wheels with savings up to $200 by rebate when you use your Goodyear credit card. Subject to credit approval. Come see Zach or Joey for complete details or check them out at PendletonTire.com.
The Mattress Outlet in Seneca is expanding their showroom to now have the largest available selection of mattresses to choose from than ever before. Save an additional percentage on our already low pricing on Queen and King. And yes, you still get your foundation for free. Choose from our increased selection of Serta and Beauty Rest models and take your perfect mattress home today. Open 7 days a week, the Mattress Outlet in Seneca, off Highway 123 across from Chick-fil-A.
Message and data rates may apply. Do you want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses right here in Greenville and Spartanburg? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll be introduced to our 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Stan Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Greenville and Spartanburg area who want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Greenville and Spartanburg are perfect markets for my system, and this week I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where we'll share how to get started making money flipping houses and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000 right now because this free ticket offer expires this Friday. Just text your zip code to 82,000.
It's 2019 and Scores Jewelers is finally in its new home on Civic Center Boulevard in Anderson. Scores Jewelers has grown into the premier jewelry store in the area thanks to you. And guys, if it's time to show her that she's the one you want to make memories with, we're here to make finding the right ring easy. Right now, we have special 36 months, no interest financing available. And at Scores, you can compare diamonds side by side to see the difference for yourself. And with one of the largest selections of mountings in the area, finding the right style has never been easier. And best of all, if we don't have it, we can make it specially for you. We have custom design in-house to create whatever she wants. Of all the things we offer, the most important is guidance and expertise. We're here to help make finding the right ring easy and enjoyable. The one thing we don't offer at Scores is high pressure. We want buying a ring to be a pleasant experience. Yes, we'd like to make a sale, but we'd rather make a friend. Friends come back. I'm William Nichols, and I'd like to personally invite you to our new location and experience for yourself the difference at Scores Jewelers.
This is George Jeffries again with Metal Building Supply in Piedmont. Do you have nuts? Well, we do, and bolts, panels, trims, and all the accessories you would need to do that shed project or roof on your home. Give us a call and talk to Kevin Brown. We can offer the names of contractors in the area and help you with the materials you need to solve those problems on your commercial building or your home. That's Metal Building Supply, 1500 Elrod Road, just off exit 39 and I-85 in Piedmont, or call 295-0506 and ask for Kevin.
Landscaping professionals expect maximum productivity from their equipment, and they'll find it with the line of Ferris zero-turn mowers, available exclusively at Landscaper Supply of Easley. Locally owned and managed, Landscaper Supply of Easley proudly carries Ferris zero-turn mowers, and they invite you to their open house March 13th. Landscaper Supply of Easley, 420 Williams Avenue, off 123, 859-4230. Ferris zero-turn mowers from Landscaper Supply of Easley.
Talk about this evening, specifically Heisman and maybe some conference allegiances. Scheduling alliances.
Yeah, but more about the alliance itself, the overtime rules that we referred to.
Looking this up, so the way it works is overtime consists of one round, so only one overtime, of first and goal opportunities from the 10. Each team gets a crack at scoring a touchdown. No field goals are permitted, and teams scoring touchdowns may only try for a 2-point conversion. So if both teams fail to score a touchdown, tie. If both teams score a touchdown and convert the 2-point conversion, tie. If both teams score a touchdown and fail to convert that 2-point conversion, it's a tie. You like this?
So quick. Yeah, you can at least have a second or third overtime, because what if both teams score on the very first play of the overtime? Then it's over.
Then it's a tie.
That seems like you didn't even play the overtime period then.
I think you also have to consider that this is a small league. There's 4 games a week. There's 40 games in totality all season. Overtime is not likely. In fact, it hasn't happened yet. And we're 3
Well,
or 4
good, because with those rules, nobody want to watch it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no draw to that at all.
Well, I understand.
If the goal is to make it better than the NFL, you don't make it equally as awful.
Listen, I'm playing devil's advocate here, okay? Because we haven't seen this overtime in action yet. So who knows? It may happen some point this season. We may watch and be like, oh, that was kind of interesting. Yeah. You don't know until you see it. want to pass judgment on this system until I see it in action repeatedly. I need at least a few examples of it to be like, okay, this works, or okay, this sucks.
2 things on that. I'd move it back from the 10. Put it at least the 20. I know you're not.
See, that's college. Essentially, college is 25.
But, I mean, you don't. The kickoff, the field goal thing gets taken out, which I think is cool.
The
fact you can only score touchdowns.
I don't think the AAF should copy the college format of, okay, if you score and the other team scores, then you have a second overtime. I think you've got to. Our obsession with seeing double, triple, quadruple overtime games is, I think, hindering the product on the field. You don't need a game to go into third overtime. Just figure out who's going to win.
But do you want it to be a tie? Like, I'd rather
What's
leave.
so bad about a tie?
I'd rather leave a game watching a couple extra overtimes, knowing who won the game, as opposed to walking away going, well, shoot, I just wasted 3 hours for a game that nobody won.
I think that's what most fans would say they don't like about a tie. Because if we play an entire football game and let's say
nobody wins.
Yeah, like if it is 3 or 4 hours and nobody wins, then you're right back where you started from, and people want an actual result.
Which is why baseball doesn't have ties.
I'm really curious, and this is something I don't know off the top of my head. It's a research question for both of y'all. When the NCAA instituted overtime in college football, because you look at any school's all-time record, I think Clemson has like 54 ties in its history.
Let's take a guess before Evan tells us.
And
what do you think it was?
We're going to take a guess. Evan, do you have the year, or are you still looking for it?
I think I have it. I'm going to keep reading.
Okay. So while Evan does his research, because again, like, Clemson or any other school, they all have ties that, I mean, Clemson's had 1 or 2 in maybe the 60s or 70s? Or has it been since the 50s?
I'd probably be willing to bet it's in the 70s, maybe late 60s. I think right around then is when you started to see, like when we looked at those AP poll rankings, the top 100 a couple weeks ago, we saw schools like Oklahoma A&M. That's probably around the time that they started changing that and they instituted some of the overtime rules.
Yeah, they're 45. They're 744, 459, and 45.
I've got your year, by the way.
Okay.
I've also got the average number of college football games that go into overtime every year. If you want to guess that number too.
All right, so let's start with.
And if you could find the average number of overtimes too, like that those games go into. I don't know if you can find that or not, but
that one might be a little bit trickier. But
let's start with the year.
I will go.
I'm taking a stab. I'm going to say 1958.
I'm going to go 1965.
Jeez, you guys are way off.
Is it later?
Way later.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
You want a second guess? Do you want to try to get a little bit closer? Chip away at this?
How about 1987?
Okay.
1977?
You're getting closer. You're still way off. The rules were changed to their current format in 1996.
No, wait. So we're talking about overtime in general.
I'm talking about like their current format.
Okay, the current format is different than the actual overtime
itself. I mean, when did overtime in college football become a thing?
You wanted like the actual.
I wanted the actual concept.
That's a different number.
So Evan's checking on that.
Because that's got to be a little bit earlier than that. You would think. Because I mean, 96? That's pretty recent.
Oh yeah, no,
that's not far away at all.
That is, but I think again the question that we're going for is when was college overtime instituted? When was overtime in college football instituted by the NCAA?
It's got to be somewhere in the 80s or 90s, I would think.
Really?
Maybe 70s.
I think it's earlier than that.
Maybe 70s. Our original guesses were what? 70? What did I say?
I was 50.
All right, I have the year that the NCAA's first overtime game was played.
That's a little better.
There we go.
We can guess again on that one.
1978.
I'm going to go 1958 with my original guess.
Bradley wins that one, 1976.
Ooh.
When Buena Vista beat Carroll of Wisconsin 20-14 in the Division III playoffs.
Wow. So you're telling me that college football existed for almost 100 years before overtime came around?
In 1981, the NCAA approved use of overtime in regular season games for conference games in Divisions 1AA, which is now Division I, Division II, and Division III. So
I guess maybe before that, no one really cared enough to see
what's really fascinating, though, is a lot of schools who have undefeated seasons count the ties as wins.
Yeah.
They don't
count
count
them
as
technically
losses.
didn't lose.
They don't count them as wins. They just don't count them as losses. You're still undefeated. No one defeated you.
Do you think that's valid?
Yes.
I mean,
you didn't lose.
You didn't lose.
But that goes back to your point of wanting to see a winner or a loser.
Yeah, no, I still want to see a winner and a loser, but if my team ties, then I can, and they don't lose any other games, I can say, yeah, nobody beat my team that year. And fans of the other team say, well, we tied you. Well, you didn't beat me. So
yeah.
That's what's really important.
But you also didn't beat them. That's the thing. Like,
no, and
I think it's
why it's a double-edged sword.
It's an undefeated season with an asterisk.
Clemson and this is great. In 1906, Clemson went 4-0-3. That's technically an undefeated season.
That's a hockey.
They had
right there.
they had almost as many ties as they had wins. But
see, that's
undefeated.
Okay. That's a little different. If you got one tie, that's one game.
It's still undefeated. They didn't lose. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's like some of the claimed championships that Alabama had back in way back in the 1920s and 30s that they claim were championships. When really you only faced like 8 or 9 teams way back in the day. A little bit different.
How many seasons does Clemson? How many undefeated seasons do the Tigers have? It's got to be
maybe 2 or 3.
No, 3. So 1981 was their 3rd undefeated season. I guess this only their 4th with this past year in 2018.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. We haven't had we've only had a couple championship seasons, and if you finish undefeated, that's a championship season. So.
You want to guess the average number of overtime games a year before we go to the phone line?
Per year.
Per year?
Let me think about how many
35.
happen per week. Ooh, that's a pretty good guess.
35.
35?
Yeah.
I'll go a little bit under that. I'm going to go around...
Don't you prices right me.
29.
Price is Right rules. Bradley wins 32.
Oh, I was going to say 33, and I changed to 35.
32 games.
That's really not a lot. I mean, if you think about every single division, this is Division 1,
That's 2 a week.
right?
That's 2 a week.
That's basically 2 a week.
It's 2 a week.
It just says, the rules were changed to their current format in 96. On average, about 32 games go into overtime every year. And then the sentence after that says, many of those games end up being among the most memorable of a given season.
Of course.
Yeah. Even more reason to not change the overtime rule.
Look at like your 2008 NCAA football video games where you got, the highest rated game always goes into like 4 or 5 overtimes.
The NCAA classics. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Alex Dodd is on with us now. What's up, Alex?
Hey, nothing much. I love a good overtime game. Like, give me a good overtime game, and I also think that if you're tying games, that while you are technically undefeated, you cannot claim a perfect season. That's the difference. You can claim an undefeated season, but not a perfect season.
Yeah, that's why I said the undefeated record has an asterisk next to it. It's not 100% undefeated.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, technically, yes, you didn't lose, but if you tied every single game in the entire season, you didn't go undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, you're average at best. If you tie every game of the year, you're average at best.
Exactly. So, Alex, we had a discussion a little bit earlier, and I don't know if you can think of any on the fly, but as great of a game as college football is right now, any changes that you might make to it to make it even better? We already discussed the targeting and overtime rules a little bit, but outside of that, do you have anything off the top of your head you can think of that would make this game even better than it is?
The first thing I thought of was definitely the targeting rule. I think that's something you could do is reducing the number of replays, or B, you have your replay team on top of things to where it doesn't take as long. If these guys are like watching the game and they're already trying to watch back some of these plays while they're happening. I mean, that's the only thing I can really think of is some adjustment to replay, because it just slows down the game. And you feel like nowadays, you have 10 replays a game is what it feels like. Really, you're probably getting 3 or 4 max, but it feels like you're watching replays half the game.
What do you think of the AAF's take on official reviews where they mic up the replay official and you can kind of hear their thought process behind their decision-making? You like that?
Can you hear that in the stadium or just when you're watching the game?
As far as I know, it's just on the telecast.
Just the telecast.
It's the telecast.
Yeah. Okay, if it's in the stadium, I'm so against it.
You'd get people rioting.
And you're streaming the game CBS Sports Live, or you're watching it on the NFL Network. I'm all for it. I mean, I want to know what's going on in these guys' heads, because you see there are a few replays that you come across every now and then, and while they are few and far between, everybody at home is like, this looks like the most obvious overturn call that I've seen all day, and then the play will stand. So I like it. I like being able to to get inside the head of those guys who are making the decisions that we don't always agree with.
And what would be really interesting is if you could actually mic up the referees at the stadium and hear, let the people, on the telecast hear the guy behind the scenes, but let the people at the actual stadium that paid the money to go see it get to hear the referees in person. I don't know if that would end very well for the refs leaving the stadium at the end of the game, but
how about the refs?
Hey,
how about the
that
refs leaving that UNC game on Saturday, man? They
gosh.
escorted them off that floor quick.
Yeah, that was not a good look for the guys in stripes. I get it. You don't want the person that determines if you're an official. That's kind of like an unspoken no-no. But on a play where you have as much contact as you had there, you've got to call something.
Yeah.
I mean, either call the charge and say that he initiated the contact, or call the foul, call the blocking foul. You can't do one. You can't just scapegoat that. In that crucial of a scenario, you can't scapegoat it. But I do understand not wanting to be the person who determines the game. But we know as well as anybody that in college basketball, the blue bloods get the calls. And Bradley's going to get mad at me for saying it. But the only one that's worse than North Carolina is Duke at getting all the calls. But
I'm willing to admit it's
an
true.
Unspoken thing. Everybody knows it's true. But when you're that good, you get the calls. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. And it's not necessarily intentional. It's not like these officials are over talking to Roy Williams or Coach K before the game and are saying, hey, guys, let's make sure we get a good one for us. But, there's something to be said about those coaches that have been there for a long time and those programs that have been up there for a long time, that they carry a little bit more weight in the subconscious of the Zebras.
Alex, I got to let you go. Got to take it off air here. Going to commercial break. Thanks for calling in, though. Hour 1 of AFR wrapped up. Hour 2 is coming your way next. We'll have some Heisman talk about conference scheduling. Stick around after this commercial break.
And now, back to After Further Review.
Hour 2 of After Further Review is now underway. Thanks again for tuning in. It's Jay Smith, Bradley Kendall, and Evan McDowell. Hour 1 up, talked a lot about rule changes and had a couple.
So many more you could throw in there.
Oh, yeah, hundreds. Well, maybe not hundreds, but a ton. Actually, one funny thing about the rule changes that I didn't get to mention was that leapfrogging a what is this? I gotta pull it up. Leapfrogging a defensive.
Oh, you're talking about over the line on a kick?
Yes, over the line on a kick is illegal. Yeah, no leapfrogging to block a punt.
Is that true though? Because I've seen multiple times where it's called both ways.
Well, it's illegal if you end up touching somebody.
Okay, so but if you were successfully able to hurdle
let me take
a
that
player.
back. In college, I think it's illegal. In the NFL, if you jump and don't touch anybody and you're not offside,
the rule in college is that no defensive player who's inside the tackle box can block a punt by leaving his feet, so I guess jumping off the ground, in an attempt to leap directly over an opponent.
Yeah, because that could crush a center. Like, just think about if that actually happened like instantaneously.
But there are some guys. There are some guys that are athletic enough to do it.
Oh, there could be a whole position devoted to that. If that was actually like technically allowed, just get the high jump team out there.
All right, well, let's move on. Heisman talk, and not necessarily looking at the preview for the Heisman, but talking about the award, just kind of background on it and what it's turned into these last couple years. Quick trivia question for both of y'all.
Okay.
Do you know what the Heisman Trophy was originally called? What was the original name before John Heisman got the name for the award, before he became the namesake?
I think I read this earlier.
What was the name of the award?
The College Football Player of the Year award. I don't know.
That's a good guess, but incorrect.
I'll go with Most Outstanding Player award.
Both good generic guesses. Is actually the DAC Trophy. It was named for New York City's downtown athletic club, the president of which, John Heisman.
Okay.
Heisman passed away the second year that the trophy was in existence, and as a gesture of goodwill, the athletic club named the award after Heisman.
So if you were to rename it nowadays, if it wasn't a Heisman Trophy, what would you name it?
Well,
first off, I wouldn't rename it.
I wouldn't rename it.
If given the choice.
Yeah.
Because if you
would
think
have
about
to
it,
name it after an iconic, all-time great coach.
The big gripe I have is that there's already a Player of the Year award. like the AP Player of the Year award, and then there's the Heisman.
But that's
Trophy.
rewarded through the AP. That's something different.
I realize that.
Are you putting the AP Player of the Year award on the same level as the Heisman?
No, I just think it's dumb. The fact that there's two of those awards and that two separate players could win both of those awards.
There's also positional awards for best running back and best quarterback, and you figure the Heisman winner is going to win that one too.
The
right?
Heisman Trophy winner is either a quarterback or a running back.
Yeah, but what if you had in the NFL, you had like a most valuable player versus a most outstanding player, like two separate awards for that? Like, I just think it's a little redundant at that point. But
well, I think it's when you break down the Heisman Award and its past winners.
I would name it the Bear Bryant Award, by the way, which I know is the coach's award right now.
Yeah.
But like, if you're looking for another all-time legendary, great college football personality to name it after, there's not many other ones better that you could choose besides Bear Bryant.
I think Nick Saban will have an award in his honor. Something to do with coaching at some point in the future. It may not be in his lifetime, but we'll see it at some point.
He'd probably win it himself if you put it there now.
Yeah. 3 running backs have won this award since the year 2000. Everybody else has been a quarterback.
Yeah.
You've had
Mark Ingram. Let's see. Hold on. I want to see if Bradley and I can combine to name all 3 of them.
Mark Ingram.
Yep.
Reggie Bush technically.
Yep. Even though he
were you
Derrick
counting
Henry.
him as one of the 3? Derrick Henry. Were you counting? Okay, so that was 3 right
so
there.
it's 3. Yeah, it's 2 guys from Alabama.
Oh my gosh.
Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram.
It wasn't Eric Crouch.
No,
we just got it.
We just got it.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, and
I didn't know if you were
Reggie
counting Reggie Bush.
So again, Reggie Bush technically doesn't because he gave his up, but he did win the award at the time, and the only other running backs to do it were both from Alabama. And I mean, you've had 2 tight ends win it in its history, Larry Kelly and Leon Hart, 2 wide receivers, Desmond Howard and Tim Brown, and then that one defensive anomaly in Charles Woodson. But
Will was a kind of a do-it-all guy anyway.
He was.
Punt returning and kick returning helped with that a little bit.
I think what's even more interesting is the fact that since 1988, no player outside the Power 5 has won this award.
I mean, it makes sense.
The last player to do it that was non-Power 5 was Tim Brown of Notre Dame.
Yeah, and that's basically
which is
a
still
Power 5 award as it is.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And this is kind of the reason we sparked this conversation, was just because, just thinking back, like you said, since 2000, it's a quarterback award. Yeah. And we've already got an award devoted to the best quarterback. And I understand, quarterback's the most important position on the football team, and he's the most recognizable player in the entire country. And most of the times, yes, indeed, it is the best player. But I think it just becomes so quarterback heavy. And with the preseason rankings that came out for next year's Heisman, the top 7 are all quarterbacks.
Well, let's not act like this is a recent phenomenon. I mean, Jay, you just mentioned there's been less than 10 other players over the almost 70-year history of this trophy that have won it that weren't a quarterback. So it's not like
81, right? It's 79 individual winners, 81 years.
Okay, so
because Archie
Griffin won it twice.
Yeah. And then Reggie Bush's was rescinded, I think.
Yeah.
So
there have been basically a single-digit number of people that weren't quarterbacks that won it.
Yeah.
So
why is this not a quarterback award?
I just think it's dumb. The fact that it's almost like a foregone conclusion.
No, why not just change it to a quarterback award?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because on the off chance that there is a running back or a wide receiver or a
Christian
defensive guy that could win it.
McCaffrey should have won the Heisman 3 years ago, and got beat out by Lamar.
Yeah. The big gripe I have with this, I mean, like I said, it's almost a foregone conclusion a quarterback is going to win the award. Look at the preseason rankings right now. You know who has an equal chance to win the Heisman according to Vegas as Travis Etienne? JT Daniels of USC, a guy that barely was starting.
You have to understand that any preseason poll is going to go after the blue blood names.
Derrick Henry was the one who beat Christian McCaffrey.
It was, yeah. So our running back was going to win that award. Yeah.
But now there was another year that Christian McCaffrey came in second, right? I thought so.
Well, if he came in second to Lamar, it was because Lamar had one of the statistically greatest seasons of quarterback
until
the
he
college
had
levels.
7 turnovers in the last 3 games. But
which if you're going to change anything about the Heisman, I don't care that it's mostly a quarterback award, because most of these teams wouldn't be as good as they are without a good quarterback. You need to award the Heisman Trophy after the season's over. After the national championship.
Yeah, I read about that, and the Heisman Committee actually answered that question themselves and said the beauty of the award itself, we like to keep the sanctity of the regular season and how great it is in college football separate from other awards across other sports, because a lot of other sports do that where they award it after the season's over.
I think if you really are one of the best players, then your postseason should be taken into account. If I'm giving you an award saying you are the best player in the country, then you should have been the best player in the country the entire season, not just the first 12 games.
You want to give every team a chance.
You have to consider the point that a texter just brought up, where the year that Lamar won the Heisman, Deshaun won the Best Quarterback of the Year award.
Yeah.
So,
but if you watched either of those quarterbacks play, you saw Lamar as the better athlete, but as a thrower, Deshaun was a better quarterback, which I think is what the Maxwell Award, I think,
so
for
is the
quarterbacks
Heisman the best
focused on.
athlete? Is it the most outstanding player? Is it the most valuable player?
Yeah, and that's where I think
what is it?
You need to start. I don't know if you can limit the number of quarterbacks that you can put on that ballot, or add, require maybe one defensive player each year to make it to New York.
You know what it's all about? It's all about stats.
It's all about
stats. It's all about the offensive stats. That's why we will never ever see another defensive player come close to winning this award.
Never's a long time. I wouldn't say never.
No, not with the.
It's
not
very
the,
unlikely.
The trend.
I would say it's very unlikely, but I would not be surprised if there was another Charles Wood. I mean, we had Jabril Peppers, who was in the top 5 of Heisman voting just recently.
The guys at Clemson this past year, like Cleveland Farrell or Christian Wilkins, should have been going to New York. They were talented.
Not with the roster that we had, though, because you're going to send all 4 of those guys because they each participated.
Ed Oliver
contributed evenly.
There are guys that
Ed Oliver doesn't go to a Power 5 school. We just mentioned this is a Power 5 award.
So then
and it should be.
There's holes in this award.
Another interesting fact.
There's holes in every award.
Well, another interesting fact about this award is for the first several years it existed, it was only for players at schools east of the Mississippi River.
Yeah, I mean, but
So
even if
West-
you didn't institute that rule,
West Coast school. Well, West Coast
nobody
schools,
from the West Coast was going to win that award anyway.
You don't know that.
I had a pretty good idea.
You're
that wouldn't happen,
you're limiting the pool.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is that I understand why quarterbacks win this award every year. I understand why quarterbacks are on the top of the Heisman ballot every year, but it gets old.
It does. And it gets old when every single player, like we saw last year, that goes to New York is all a quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't even have any other positions represented.
Yeah, give me some intrigue.
Give me some.
Because no other position is as singularly as important to the team as a quarterback.
I disagree with that. I don't think
you can have a ridiculously good team, and if you don't have a good quarterback, it's not going to be a good team.
That's the problem. It's not a team award. Thank you for bringing that up because that infuriates me.
Yeah, I hate
when
that.
everyone makes, you've got to, if the team, it's BS.
There are 52 other guys, or however many there are on that roster.
It should not matter how the rest of the team performs.
No.
If you excel at your position and you're one of the best in the country at your position, it's an individual award. You should be able to go to New York and at least have a running chance of contending for the award.
The fact that anyone even brought up the idea that since Lamar's team did not perform well the second half of the season, that he should be penalized in that Heisman voting for that is ludicrous. That's
You know what's
insane.
crazy, though? Ricky Williams of Texas in 1988, they had 8 wins. It's the fewest wins that a Heisman-winning player has been on a team has recorded.
Well, I mean, of course, you're going to have the best teams, most likely have the best players, and most likely have the best stats. So usually it makes sense.
But we've talked about in the past how it's now a team award.
It is. And the fact that, like, when Christian McCaffrey was in the running for it, not a lot of people watched him throughout the year, and the team wasn't, a national championship contender.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason he didn't win that award.
Well, they're at a
that
disadvantage.
was part of it.
They're at a disadvantage because they're playing 3 hours later than everybody else.
Exactly.
You have to stay up till 2 a.m. And the way that I think this brings up a very interesting conversation, and I want to get back to Alex, who is called back in, because being a member of the media, he probably has a unique perspective on this. So I'm going to go ahead and get Alex back on air with us. But to briefly give a breakdown on how the Heisman voting works. So ballots are sent out to 870 media members plus the 58 former living winners in November. And they have about a week to return their ballots, and that tabulates the votes. Now, most of the voters are media members who cover college football on a regular basis. It's divided into 6 regions of 145 members each: the Northeast, the Southwest, the South, the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest, and the Far West. And then, again, you have the 58 living Heisman winners who also are counted in that pool. And you can voters can select 3 players on their ballot. So a first-place vote gets 3 points, second place 2 points, and third 1 point. And any player, at any level is eligible to be included on the ballot. And then you have that additional vote from fans I think that's through Nissan because they're the premier partner.
Yeah.
So you have a total of 929 potential ballots. Now, Alex, my question to you, being a member of the media and having a different perspective than us, how do you feel about the way the Heisman voting works? I mean, I'm sure you know at least a few people who are Heisman voters. Have you been able to talk to them at all about how the process works?
Yeah, so I actually do know a few Heisman voters, one of them being Gene Sapakoff from the Post-Courier in Charleston. But this is my issue with how the Heisman voting works. And this is a really complex issue, and you guys have discussed it. It's supposed to be for the most outstanding player in college football, which your team shouldn't matter. But you're talking about media members, and these media members that cover college football consistently are pretty much all writers. And the issue with people who cover college football consistently, if you're a writer, you're covering one team. And you really only have time to watch one game on a Saturday. For example, me this year, I pretty much only got to watch Clemson games on Saturdays. And then if it was a noon game, which most of them were this year, then I could watch the night game. That was the premier night game. So like you said, the Christian McCaffreys of the world that are playing in the Pac-12 are not going to get noticed by the Heisman voters. But when you're watching one team consistently, it's hard to pick up on these other people that are having outstanding games. And in today's media climate, what you see in the national media is the player that's playing well for the team that's playing well. So that's why you get that voting, and that's why that happens. But at the same time, if you're the most outstanding player in college football, there's going to be some quality of leadership that's going to come with that. There's going to be some quality of pulling guys together that are around you that maybe aren't as good as you are. That's going to lead you to have a better team. And I think maybe that was my issue with when Lamar Jackson won the Heisman and Deshaun didn't. My other issue with the Heisman is that you do the voting before the postseason, which is preposterous. I don't understand how you can pick the most outstanding player in college football without watching them play on the biggest stages that they're going to play the entire year. I don't understand how you can dub somebody most outstanding when you don't see them play in the college football playoff or a New Year's Six or the Gator Bowl. Whatever bowl game your team's playing in that has the most outstanding player. You want to see those guys and how they perform at the highest level when people have prepared for them for a month, when people know their stats and have watched their film and have broke down every part of your offense or defense. But you're not going to get a defensive player. You guys already discussed that. But when you've prepared for somebody for so long, if you're still able to go and have an outstanding performance like a Deshaun Watson type was able to do in the postseason, then that person should be awarded the Heisman Trophy. But that's my issue and my perspective. Being a member of the media, when you're covering college football consistently, they're talking about being a beat writer typically, and beat writers really only have a chance to watch one game.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said, except I still think it should be a regular season award only because when you start to factor in teams that played better than others throughout the course of the year and that maybe get the benefit of the doubt of being on the college football playoff scene as opposed to being on the Gator Bowl scene, then you start to bring that team aspect into it. And we talked about how we think it should be that individual award.
Yeah.
Well, if your brothers around you and have played better than the other guy's team has, he gets a better chance to be seen by more people at the end of the season. And I think you got to keep that regular season aspect and just keep it fair across the board where you've only got 12 games and you got to deal with whatever you got in that 12-game span. So I see what you're trying to say. I think it would be interesting to see how the postseason might impact that.
Sounds like your one change, Alex, would be move the voting to the postseason. If you could, or after the postseason, if you could institute one change.
Yeah, I don't know that you can change the voter pool. I think that the award is very established, so you're not going to make any drastic changes.
Right.
But I don't think that it's a preposterous or an outlandish change for you to move the Heisman voting to the end of the season. Because even if somebody is playing in that lower tier bowl game or that second tier bowl game, if they're able to go and perform with a team that's been able to meticulously prepare for them for a month, that means something. And I think that that's important in seeing who the most outstanding person or football player in college football is at the end of the year. And I think that's what at the end of the year makes people go like, well, maybe this person should have won the Heisman because they went and played in, the Chick-fil-A Bowl and balled out despite a really good game plan by the other coach,
right,
or they were able to adjust against a different defense. You don't really get to see that if you don't include the postseason.
See, I would argue with all three of you that the team does have to factor into it at some point. I'm not saying give the award to the best player on the best team, because if we had done that last year, it would have been Tua's award when Kyler Murray clearly deserved it. I'm saying if you're one of the best players on one of the best teams, that means more than being the best player on the worst team. Because if the rest of the people around you aren't very talented and you just happen to be a little bit more talented than them, that doesn't mean you're more talented than somebody who's on a better team.
Yeah,
I have a really tough way of explaining that. But does
I
that make
understand
sense?
what you're saying. And Alex, I do want to appreciate and thanks again for calling in. We do have to cut to a commercial break, but thanks for calling back in and talking with us about it.
No problem, man. Anytime.
Yeah, all good points. I see what you're saying, Evan. I think that it's kind of open to interpretation. I do think that the consensus here is that if we move the voting to after the end of the season, that would benefit everyone.
And don't allow early voting either.
Yeah.
I think that's stupid.
I think that I would do away with that too. But cutting to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have Daniel Green, the student photographer for Clemson Athletics, on with us. And that's next. Stick around.
Are you ready to go all in on a car? Granger Nissan knows what car will fit you and your family because they are a leader in the market with competitive inventory. They have everything for everyone. Granger Nissan is a family business, so they know the importance of taking care of the ones we love on the road. You can drive with confidence and ease because Granger Nissan has all new vehicles with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Granger Nissan is not just in the car business, they're in the people business. Stop by Granger Nissan of Anderson on 3510 Clemson Boulevard.
Pros know getting the next job means doing this one right. Lowe's is here to help with brands you need to power through any job. Shop the largest assortment of Bosch power tools, including the new Core 18-volt battery platform and 12-volt powered laser level. Plus, stop in now during Bosch Tool Days and save up to 30% off select Bosch power tools and accessories, including a Bosch 12-volt Max 2-tool combo kit with 2 batteries for just $129. Whatever it takes to do the job, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offer valid through 3/13. See store for details. U.S. only.
Join us at the 3rd annual Big Splash Sales event at Clemson Marina. Kick off the boating season with the biggest boat sales event of the year with discounts up to $3,000 off select Veranda luxury pontoons, Monterey sports boats, and express fishing boats powered by Yamaha Outboards. Enjoy local vendors, kids entertainment, a catfish fry, and discounted drinks from the grill. We'll see you Saturday, March 9th at Clemson Marina, your authorized Veranda, Express, Monterey, and Yamaha Outboards dealer.
Expertise is yet another reason contractors and facility managers choose Crute LED. We sell the best products because we design them ourselves. The practical experience of installing them and learning what works best for our contractors and installers allows us to create fixtures that are exceptionally easy to install and include all the necessary parts without anything else to buy. Call us at 864-401-8156 or email us at sales@crute-led.com for more info on our innovative products or to place your order today.
And caller number 9 for $1 million. Rita, complete this quote. Life is like a box of...
Oh, I know this one. Chocolates.
You're cutting out, Rita. We need your answer.
Oh my goodness. Life is like a box of chocolates.
Oh, sorry. That's not what we were looking for. On to caller number 10.
Bad network got you glitched out of luck? Switch to Boost Mobile's super reliable, super fast nationwide network and get 4 lines, each with unlimited gigs for just $100 a month. Plus, get 4 free phones. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/15/19. First line is $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Video streams at up to 480p plus. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming at up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Free phones require port in. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Hey guys, this is Taj Boyle with Lakeside Lodge Clemson. It's been a great year for Tiger football and for Lakeside Lodge. We want to say thank you for welcoming us to the Clemson family. Construction is well underway, and there are a handful of luxury condos remaining. If you haven't gotten yours yet, call us today to schedule a tour or come see me at our sales office at 906 Tiger Boulevard. Trust me, you'll want to be a part of this Lakeside Lodge Clemson. It belongs here, and so do you.
O'Reilly. At O'Reilly Auto Parts, we promise you'll get better parts, better prices every day. Our stores are stocked with high-quality parts and accessories at guaranteed low prices, and our friendly, well-trained professionals are standing by to help. So stop in and see how 5 simple words drive everything we do. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Coming to you from the studios of WCCP. We're joined now by Daniel Green, student photographer for the Clemson Athletic Department. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us, Ian and Daniel.
Thank you guys. I was looking forward to it all day, man.
Yeah.
Well, do you have cameras that can make Jay's face look any less ugly than it already is?
Oh man, I'm starting out with insults. I will say he's taken some good pictures of me working because I think I've mentioned this on air, part of the broadcast video staff at Clemson. So we have worked alongside each other just in different departments, and he's gotten some good pictures.
You've also got some good pics of him in the tunnel, spying on him. On
on the cameras. But Daniel, I want to talk about how you got started because your major is not really related to photography or anything. I mean,
a little bit.
I mean, your majors, remind me again.
Marketing, yeah.
Marketing.
Okay, nice.
So did you...
Fellow Serener.
Yeah.
Yes,
Did
sir.
you fall into this position once you got to college, or did you know coming from high school that you wanted to work within athletics and photography? And
Yeah, so I started with the whole photography thing, I guess like 10th grade maybe, is when I got my first camera for Christmas, all that. I just did it as a hobby mainly through high school. Once I got to college, my senior year was whenever the Clemson, social media athletics team was really kind of like getting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And, everybody took notice of that. So I got there my freshman year at Clemson, and I was like, there's got to be some way I can get involved with this, even if it's just like as a hobby. So I kind of sent some emails, talked to some people, and it ended up working out just the way I wanted. So I was pretty happy with that.
And you work for the athletic communications staff.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's so many different
so many different departments.
There's so many different departments. I mean, there's again, we're doing what I do is on the broadcast end, Paul Vision, quote unquote, the jumbotrons. You're taking images of the game. And what is your primary responsibility when you're working an athletic event?
Depends. So mainly with football, there's so many cogs in that thing that each person has a really specific role. So I would say during a football game, my primary responsibility is some action, but usually during the football games, there's stuff going on, people being honored, support staff of the game, any veterans that are honored, war veterans. There's just always something different each game. So usually my personal responsibility is to make sure that I get pictures of that, because the communications department, needs all that.
Right.
They can't really just worry about, cool action photos. So they have plenty more talented people than I to take care of
Well, they
that.
have that whole team, the Creative Solutions team.
Right.
I guess most people are thinking of the vlogs and stuff and that's more of your video-centric content.
Yeah.
And you're focusing more on the stills and capturing just kind of the whole environment of the game.
Yeah, during football, on a game day when there's so much going on, the creative team and the communications team kind of play hand in hand, because the creative team will use the photos and vice versa. But
And what's it like being on the field each week? I mean, it's got to feel so much different than being in the student section, because that's all I'm used to for the last 4 years.
It's completely different. It's pretty loud, I would say.
Much louder on the field than in the stands. People don't realize how louder it is on the sidelines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny, growing up, my whole family is pretty much all Clemson, so I would go to games since I could walk. And it's just such a different perspective to be on the field, because I, grew up going and sitting in the stands, and it's just really cool. The first game that I worked as an employee for athletics, one of my assignments was to go on the field for the coin toss and get pictures of the coin toss.
Wow.
So I'm standing on the logo with 80,000 people around me, and you just kind of got to shut it out, I guess.
And I'm sure you've been to the College Football Hall of Fame before, where you can go through and the virtual reality, actually look around and see what it's like to be in that position.
Yeah,
that's cool. So what's been your, I guess, most favorite moment as a photographer?
Yeah, I mean, you've worked
football,
plenty of
you've
worked baseball. I know you've done basketball. I mean, I guess to Bradley's question, not only your favorite event, but how do y'all figure out who's going to work what games? Because I know you have a staff of several students.
Yeah, we kind of just split it up pretty evenly. Our boss, Brian Hennessy, who works in communications, he will assign each of us, a fairly even number of tasks. And there's 5 or 6, 7 of us maybe. And we all split it up. We all get each sport, so we all get to see the different sports, get a good idea of everything that goes on in athletics.
Favorite moment? To Bradley's question earlier?
Oh, yeah, my bad. In the college football playoff last year, I actually got a chance to go down to the Sugar Bowl to take pictures of that. That was actually with the newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't technically with athletics. It was with the Tiger newspaper. Shout out Tiger Newspaper. Shout out Kim.
Montour, I love it.
Yeah, I was down there too because I was with Tiger Vision.
Yeah.
So you were down there with the Tiger Newspaper.
Right.
I was down there with Tiger Vision.
Yeah, but that was surreal. Wasn't the end result we wanted at the Sugar Bowl that year, but it was still a lot of fun.
Just going and I think Alex talked about this. Alex Dodd, who we've had on the show a couple times, he's a writer for the Clemson Insider. Just the different perspective being a member of like the meet or going to a game working rather than just as a fan or spectator and having to balance enjoying the game because it's your team and it's your school, but also like you're there to work, you're there to do a job, and like there's expectations.
It's really interesting to me to see the people, the staff, media, this is like their career. Yeah. And they're all like so talented, and it's just cool to see them, grinding down the football games because that's work for them. Yeah. That's how they make their livelihood, and it's just such a different experience from, being a student.
Could you see yourself doing that post-graduation?
I don't know. No? I kind of like to keep hobbies, you know.
Well, it's a lot of nights and weekends.
Yeah.
Because that's when, and that's, part of that realization if you want to work in athletics, it's,
your fun becomes your work.
Yeah, you're basically working when everybody else is enjoying the sport. And so some people are okay with that, some people aren't. But it's just, amazing when you think about all the opportunities that students have at Clemson and other schools in athletics and any other opportunity and what, you've been able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also asked Alex Dodd this question when he came on. Being someone that can travel around to different events and cover many games that a lot of people would even dream to be in the stands for, if you had to cover 3 sporting events, any sporting events, which ones would you pick?
Is this just college?
Oh,
it can be college, professional, anything.
As a photographer,
first off, I'm going to say the national championship game, obviously.
Okay.
Because I have not. Well, I went to Tampa as a fan, not as a worker.
Yeah.
But that would have been amazing to be there working that game. I do love doing basketball, not just football. I love doing basketball too. I would love the chance to get to go to the Final Four, to be honest.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. And then, third one, I don't even know. That's tough. I guess Super Bowl, man. I don't know. Everybody loves Super Bowl.
That's the cop-out answer right there. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, everything you've been able to do, and you've worked because you're a junior, and you've worked with athletic communications for 2 years? Or is this your third year? Have you been doing
almost
this
2 years, yeah. The
Almost
very
2
end of
years.
freshman year is when I got started, so almost 2 years, coming up on 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's just amazing when you think about how many people go into
one event.
Working an event. Like you think about the photographers, the creative media staff, the broadcast staff. I mean, there is teams, plural, of people that. And I guess another question I have for you is, what kind of strategy or planning do y'all do as a staff before games to map out? Like you mentioned, okay, you had to cover the coin toss. Like that was one of your assignments. Like, is your boss Brian figuring out who does what, or do y'all collaborate? How does that work?
It's kind of a collaboration with Brian, and the creative solutions team also puts together, their input for who they need where. But for me, mainly, like I would get, the coin toss, and we have a schedule. It's like by the minute, it'll be like 2:34, get this, 2:48, get this. So it'll be like, I'll get the coin toss, I'll get the honorary captains, like former Clemson players that come to the game to walk onto the field for the coin toss. And then I'm also like in communication when I'm actually on the field. I'm in communication with the people who are in the market, like I guess it's the Clemson Athletics marketing team who handles the presentations.
The promotions? Yeah. That's under Mike Money. That would be the marketing staff.
I got to make sure that I'm in the right spot on the football field. Yep. So I have to be like, hey, where is this person going to be? So I know where to stand because I can't be like sprinting across, across
it's almost like refereeing. You got to be in the same right spot every time, right? Yeah. How long did it take you to kind of get accustomed to what you kind of do now? Because I know Jay tried to teach me how to work cameras, for a couple years ago, and it took forever for me to even figure out.
It's a steep learning curve.
What button to press? Yeah. What kind of process went into trying to learn everything you know now?
Well, I got an early start, so I've had a lot of time. I did it like I said, I mainly do it as a hobby, so I'm not too pressured to do anything that I don't want to do, which kind of gives me the comfort to, learn at my own pace and teach myself, watch a lot of YouTube videos, As far as, like working athletics goes, that just comes with experience because
it's a fast-paced environment.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, even during timeouts at football games that a casual fan doesn't pick up on, but you're constantly moving around. I mean, you're not sitting still during those games for 4 hours. You're on your feet.
It's a workout, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's a lot of moving, especially, football games. Basketball games, baseball games is a little more relaxed, but,
contained.
Talk about your experience with showcases. And I guess, we can just go as broad as explain to the listeners what a showcase is.
I don't even know what a showcase is.
Yeah. So explain what that is to people who wouldn't know.
Okay, so I did the football showcase. I've done, soccer, basketball, tennis showcases. But the football, they're all big productions. Like, it's a lot of work that goes into this and a lot of setup, a lot of people, working. It's a process for everybody.
Absolutely.
After the summer after my freshman year, I did the football showcase. They usually do it sometime in July. And I was mainly set up on, it was called the Lifestyle station, I guess. There's like 3 stations usually. So there'll be like a roster picture station, which is just your, basic like roster picture headshot. And then there'll be like the uniform station where they're, in full pads and full gear.
Right.
And they do poses and all that. And mainly the stuff you see like on the graphics all the time during football season. And then the lifestyle stage where I was like they would dress up in like suits, ties. They were looking real nice, whatever they wanted to wear. And those also went into, like a lot of graphics used by the department too.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. That was one of the most fun things I've done for sure.
And you said you've done that for not only football, but also other sports?
Yeah.
You've done tennis, basketball, and you mentioned baseball?
Yeah, I did the baseball as well. I did soccer. Men's and women's soccer usually combines into one day. So I've gotten a lot of experience seeing like a lot of different sports. A lot of it is pretty similar, They're all just getting, cool poses and like the pictures and the setup that the team sets up with all the lights and everything. It's incredible. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, and Jay and I we even mentioned before the show how this is our 81st episode. We've only got 2 more months left of students. I guess as a junior, you got a little bit more time.
Yeah.
What's one thing you want to do before you graduate? There's got to be something on the bucket list you want to knock out.
Doesn't have to be work-related.
Doesn't have to be work-related. Yeah, just Clemson-related in general.
Oh, my gosh. You put me on the spot here.
You with the hard questions over here.
Yeah. I don't know. I really regret missing out this year's national championship. I want to go back to a playoff, I guess. I would love to go back, even to the semifinal again.
Well, you've been to a championship game, the one in Tampa, correct? Yeah. So you've seen Clemson win a championship.
And that was the best of the best.
Oh, yeah.
That was...
I don't know, man. The one out in
I think Jay would argue with that.
It was pretty spectacular because by the third quarter, I had my feet propped up and I was just watching. It was great. I just watched all the Bama fans stream out.
Yeah. It was just being in Tampa that year, breaking the drought we'd been in. That was what was so special about it, I think. And really that last-minute play.
Oh, yeah. Really satisfying.
So great.
Now, were you in the Taco Bell student section for that, or did you purchase another ticket?
I was in my family, so we had
there you go.
Of us go
wow.
there.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of people that we knew made trips down there. Like I said, Bradley, you got a ticket. And actually, Jackson.
I got a buddy's ticket.
Yeah, Jackson Wright, our NFL draft guru who comes on with us once a year to talk about the draft, he got a student ticket. So y'all went down there together.
Very fortunate. I have some good friends that are willing to sacrifice tickets out there for me.
But hey, Daniel, appreciate you taking the time to come to the studio tonight and talk with us about your experience, and really appreciate it. But going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, we will wrap up this week's show and talk about some scheduling alliances. That is next. Stick around.
Join us at the 3rd annual Big Splash Sales event at Clemson Marina. Kick off the boating season with the biggest boat sales event of the year with discounts up to $3,000 off select Veranda luxury pontoons, Monterey sports boats, and express fishing boat powered by Yamaha Outboards. Enjoy local vendors, kids entertainment, a catfish fry, and discounted drinks from the grill. We'll see you Saturday, March 9th at Clemson Marina, your authorized Veranda, Express, Monterey, and Yamaha Outboards dealer.
Granger Nissan of Anderson is the home of the lifetime warranty. At Granger Nissan, we are all about family, so we are looking for a play ball kid for every Clemson weekend home game. Stop by Granger Nissan of Anderson to register your kid. You don't have to do anything, and nobody's going to pressure you into buying a car. Simply come by and register your kid to stand at home plate and shout, "Play ball." You'll get 4 tickets to the game, and your family and your kid will get an experience they will always remember. Granger Nissan of Anderson, proud partner of the Clemson Tigers.
You have cracks in your driveway, sidewalk, or settling pool decks? Why tear it out when you can lift it? Canty Foundation Specialists can raise concrete slabs back to its original position using our patented polylevel process. Call Canty today at 864-475-1671. Don't replace it, raise it. 475-1671 or visit us at cantyfoundationsc.com.
I'm Richard Thompson of Thompson & King Law Firm, and I believe that every person has a God-given desire to work. That's why I take Social Security and workers' compensation cases very seriously, because most folks don't really want to think they're disabled. They hesitate to file for disability, and when they're turned down, they hesitate to appeal their case. But they are disabled. If you're presently unable to work on a daily basis, even if you don't fully understand the cause, come see me. I'll take your case seriously. I know you do.
But Thompson King Law Firm, 222-0200.
Such and data rates may apply.
Do you want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses right here in Greenville and Spartanburg? If so, we have an amazing opportunity for you. We're looking for a small group of motivated individuals to join our real estate investing team. You'll be introduced to our 3-step system for flipping homes right here in the local area. This is Stan Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My team and I are looking for a handful of people in the Greenville and Spartanburg area who want to learn how to get started making money flipping houses in your spare time using other people's money. Greenville and Spartanburg are perfect markets for my system, and this week I'm holding a free 2-hour educational workshop where we'll share how to get started making money flipping houses and how to build long-term wealth with income properties.
To get 2 free tickets to Than's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 82,000 right now, because this free ticket offer expires this Friday. Just text your zip code to 82,000.
I'm Eddie Bennett. We're blessed with a strong economy. The upstate is growing with companies expanding, relocating, and adding employees. If you're turning dirt on a new project or an expansion, chances are you need equipment to help get the job done. With locations in Greenville and Spartanburg, as well as our newest location in Seneca, Bennett Equipment and Supply is your Tarkeuchi source. And we rent and sell all sorts of tools to get the job done. Remember, when you need to rent it from Bennett.
J. Grady Randolph is hiring. Specializing in flatbed hauling since 1935, JGR has deep roots in the Carolinas and proudly supports the Clemson Tigers. Start your new career today by calling 864-761-4041. J. Grady Randolph offers competitive pay and free family health care coverage. Local and regional positions available. Call 864-761-4041 or get more information online at driveforjgr.com. That's driveforjgr.com.
This week's show, talking some scheduling alliances potentially in college football and how schedules are made, because I don't think that ever gets talked about.
No one ever talks
Bradley.
about that.
Nobody talks about how a college football schedule is made. I mean, the NFL, it's pretty simple. It usually depends on where you finish in your division. And
you get like one other division a year
yeah,
across the league that you get to play against, and it's pretty simple.
And there's fewer teams. There's only 32 teams, and in college football,
you've got multiple divisions.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety, and
I think nowadays we're starting to see more people focus on that, only because it's starting to become such a big deal. With the BCS era, it was pretty much you go undefeated, you're getting in. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Make the computer happy, and you're good. But now you have to make the human happy and win those big non-conference games. But that creates a bit of an issue, because for most conferences, you have 8 league games, or 9 if you're the Pac-12. But for most conferences, you have 8 league games, 4 at home and 4 on the road. Now, if your other team, if you're a team like Clemson, Georgia, Stanford, Boston College.
That was the 4 most random schools you could have listed right there.
Well, I'll tell you what they all have in common. They all play a non-conference game against a rival every year.
That's what I thought you
that is mandated by the law.
Yep.
Clemson's playing South Carolina. Georgia's playing Georgia Tech. Stanford's
Which I love the
USC,
fact that it's an actual law.
And then Boston College is playing Notre Dame.
Yep.
And that's a gift. That's a blessing and a curse. Because if you're Clemson, 9 of your 12 games are you already know who,
they're predetermined.
Who you're going to play. Yeah, they're predetermined. So you don't have a lot of wiggle room, because the way that these non-conference games are set up usually revolve around who is available at that week, at that specific time. And if, there's a team you want to play that's not available week 4, then you've got to find somebody else.
Yeah, and what we've seen in the past with like a team like UCF, they've run into the problem of we schedule teams 5 years in advance. You don't know if that team's going to be good in 5 years.
Yeah.
It could technically be a cupcake game in 4 to 5 years at that point. So it's a big struggle, and I think a lot of coaches and players of universities kind of wish they had more say in kind of what teams they were facing. Because I think if you asked coaches and players across the country now, do you want to be playing the Citadel in Week 10, or would you rather go travel to Michigan?
And another thing that we're not even discussing is the payment options for these games. Yeah. How much is this team going to charge us for a game? How much are we going to have to pay this team to come play?
If this game gets canceled, how much do we have to donate to that school?
If you're Clemson and you're playing the Citadel, how much Clemson has to negotiate within Citadel, how much money they're going to pay the Citadel to play that game. And then on the other side, how much is whatever network that's broadcasting the game going to pay?
Yeah, and especially now with the ACC network, it changes a lot of things. You factor in the Notre Dame part of it, where that automatically takes up a spot and 5 or 6 years.
And you can look at the revenue. Is this having a weak non-conference home game, i.e. Citadel?
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to fill the stadium? Is that basically giving up a home game and a bunch of revenue?
Yeah.
I mean, those are all things that schools have to consider when they're scheduling those 3 or 4 non-conference games.
And in the end, the main goal in all of this is to get to 3-0 in your non-conference, or 4-0.
100%.
That's always the goal.
100%.
That's the focus 100% of the time. Sometimes it gets taken to a bit of an extreme where you start seeing teams schedule 4 cupcakes throughout the season, or maybe 1 decent Power 5 game and then 3 other cupcakes on top of that. And I think we've started to see teams in the SEC in particular start to work towards scheduling out-of-conference games, especially road games.
Clemson had that home and home at Georgia in 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
Or 2013, 2014. Mm-hmm. It was one of those two. And, Clemson with A&M, so there's those are the 2 that I can think of now. I'm sure there's been other ones. Now, didn't Auburn have a home and home with Oregon?
Or was it I don't know about Oregon. They played Washington in a neutral site this season. But Michigan and Notre Dame, that's one you could bring up, the home and home series.
I was thinking specifically SEC, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, Florida's obviously got Florida State. I think they've mixed in maybe a game with Texas here and there. But this kind of all stemmed on this article written on CBS Sports about a conference alliance between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. Potential alliance between the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and how they could somehow negotiate a cross-schedule, non-conference layout every single year. I think it's a good idea in theory. Now, will it work? Probably not.
No.
Because the Pac-12's got more teams than the Big 12.
Yeah.
Big 12 doesn't have 12 teams, which I think is still kind of ridiculous. But I think it's, like I said, in theory, I think it's a very smart decision.
It makes more sense if you're a Group of 5 conference than if you're a Power 5 conference. And this honestly brings up a whole nother discussion about if the Power 5 is sustainable in the future of college football, and now where you see basically every Power 5 conference getting their own television network, the oversaturation of college athletics beyond just football is a very real thing. And at some point, that bubble is going to burst. I mean, you can't continue to sustain this growth and this as long as the revenue goes up, it'll keep happening. But there will come a point where it will plateau. And I think at some point you're going to see some sort of realignment. Now, it may not be drastic, but
like wiping out every conference.
No, I don't think you're going to see like the power or the group of the Power 5 and the Group of 5 all combine and turn into like an NFL type structure where there's like divisions and conference. I don't think that's ever going to happen. College football is too regionalized. It's too regionalized.
It'd be interesting if you could schedule it like in the NCAA football games, like we alluded to before, where you get to pick before that season starts.
Yeah, but
who do I pick to play every single week?
There's no way you can tell me that Michigan and Florida should be in the same conference.
Oh, no, you got to keep it regional.
That's what I'm saying. College football is a regional sport.
You've got to keep it regional. The tradition, a lot of the teams that you've traditionally played, you got to keep those on the schedule every single year.
And that's what the conferences right now, at least the Power 5, seek to satisfy, that regional landscape.
But I think a lot of it has been lost in that revenue growth
it's all like, about the dollars.
Take Maryland, for instance. Maryland is not a Big Ten team. No. You cannot convince me that they're a Big Ten team. They will forever be an ACC school. Now, they might argue that the money aspect of it is more beneficial, which it is. But when you look at the traditional games that you play in basketball and baseball and football, all that.
Is A&M an SEC school?
A&M's different, I think, only because of how much of an impact it has on the sport in terms of monetary reasons and just
they're a big money maker. They're the most valuable program in the country.
Yeah, so I think that example right there is a little bit different, but like West Virginia changing, from where they were in the Big East to the Big 12.
Any team from the Big East.
Way out there.
Yeah, any team.
I mean, you're talking about every single week traveling out into the Midwest.
Yeah.
And that I think from a fan's perspective isn't exactly something you'd like to see. It's cool to see your team play Kansas or Texas Tech every couple of years, but when you're playing them every single year, you don't get that regional flavor like you did in the past.
And you honestly see a little bit of this in bowl games because bowl games pit two teams from different conferences. Same two conferences every year, just different, depends on what team finishes third or fourth in their respective conference and pits them against each other.
Now, let's take this, for example, what the Big 12 commissioner, or I think maybe the Pac-12 commissioner was arguing could be involved in this alliance. They mentioned with 30 Big 12 and Pac-12 schools, there'd be a gap in the scheduling.
30 games.
Or 30 games, yeah 30 games.
Not 30 teams.
Not 30 teams, maybe one day. But there's a gap in the scheduling. Could you fill that gap with a 4-team playoff between the top two schools from each conference? That'd be interesting because both of these conferences feel a little underrepresented in the playoff. Could you get a joint conference championship?
That would be a bit of a middle finger to the CFP. It would also never happen.
No.
Because
I think the odds of this happening are about as equal as Notre Dame joining a conference.
Yeah,
Wouldn't happen.
I don't see this ever becoming reality, but I think it does. I think there's things that these other conferences can do. And I'm not specifically referring to Power 5. I'm talking Group of 5. I'm talking the Group of 5. There are things that the Group of 5 can do to increase their brand recognition across the country and kind of change the perception that most people have of Group of 5 conferences.
I just want to go back for just a second because I'm a little behind because I was looking up directions. But as far as...
You forgot how to get home?
No. It's dark. No, I'm looking at, geographically speaking, you're talking about realigning conferences, and Bradley, your specific example was that it doesn't make sense for West Virginia to have to travel west to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Okay, well, from Charleston, West Virginia to Dallas, Texas is 1,049.6 miles. Okay? Keep that number in mind.
Yep.
From Boston to Miami is 1,499 miles, and they're both members of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And wait, I'm not done yet. From Pullman, Washington to Phoenix, Arizona, Washington State, Arizona State, 1,262 miles.
Interesting.
So it doesn't, geographically speaking, it doesn't really matter because it's more...
The West is more spread out, though. I think
But I just proved that it's spread out in the middle, the East, and the West.
What's the conference called? The Atlantic Coast Conference.
Well, they're still that far away. Well, it's called the Big 12. It's not called the Midwestern Conference.
I think the reason
the Pac-12 is not called the West Coast Conference. That's something completely different.
Pacific Coast.
But is Boston College a original founding member of the ACC?
It doesn't matter. They're still in the ACC right now.
What I'm saying is that they're not.
I don't think so.
But West Virginia was in the Big East for so long that they became regionalized in a way that all of a sudden they're playing teams that really they have no history with.
Well, from a football perspective, it makes sense because playing in the Big East in football nowadays is completely, it's irrelevant at this point.
Well, you're right because it doesn't
exist. It doesn't exist, but even take the American.
Sure.
West Virginia is a Power 5 school. Being second in the American Conference, I think, would be such a huge detriment to them.
Absolutely.
I just Googled Minnesota to Penn State just for fun as well. 1,132 miles.
You're too stuck up on
geographically speaking, you would have to realign everything.
Yeah. Should that be done?
The biggest gripe I have in sports.
I don't think so.
I think conferences should be more about... What? I'm sorry. I'm just giving you the treatment you give me all the time. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
Biggest gripe I have in sports. The Memphis Grizzlies are in the Western Conference. They're in the middle of freaking Tennessee.
Is that an NBA team?
That's an NBA team.
Is that an NBA team?
What does that have to do?
That's the first problem I have. You didn't even know that was an NBA team.
What does that have to do with our discussion right now?
Geographically speaking, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm saying I don't necessarily care that much about geography because I think conferences should be more about talent level than it should be geography because it wouldn't make sense to put Alabama and UAB in the same.
So if a team starts sucking, they just get booted out of the conference?
Why do you think Maryland's in the Big Ten now? That's part of it.
Why is Rutgers in the Big Ten?
Yeah, but I say Rutgers is in the Big Ten.
I'm not saying you should realign conferences because of talent. I'm saying it makes more sense the conferences the way they are now because if you put Alabama and UAB and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and pick another random small school in Mississippi, I don't really care, and put them in the same conference. That's not really fair.
So explain to me if you think it's fair that a school like Wake Forest is in the same conference as a school with the resources like Florida State or Clemson.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, it's just kind of the way it is. Like, that's one sport. But, look at basketball.
I was going to say, in football.
But would Wake Forest benefit from going to a Group of 5 conference? Should it only be...
Where else are you going to put them? How about that? If you're looking to move Wake Forest, where do you send them?
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of conferences.
But you just said
hate you right now.
You just said Wake Forest to a Power 5 conference. If not the ACC, you're going to send them to the SEC?
No, Group of 5. I'm sorry, Group of 5.
Group of 5. Okay, because I was about to say if you want them to get curb stomped in football every week,
I don't want them to get completely. I want the guys to live after the football game. All I'm saying is that there's a lot of disparity between schools, even in the ACC, in terms of size, revenue, like the whole 9 yards.
Well, I mean, there's going to be disparity between every team and every conference ever. I'm just saying it wouldn't make sense for there to consistently be that same disparity.
Now, what would stop NCAA athletics from just saying no more conferences, no more regionality flavor and all that? You got 3 teams on your schedule you have to play each year.
The money, because the networks exist. The SEC network, the Big Ten network, the ACC network, the Pac-12 network, the Longhorn network. That's why.
Take out the networks, though.
That it would never happen, but okay.
But theoretically, take out the networks.
Sure.
It's possible.
No, it's not, but okay.
How?
Because of the network. There's just too much infrastructure behind the Power 5 as it is. I think you'll continue to see the Power 5 evolve over time. It may, at some point, 2 of these conferences may merge or they may split into. I don't really know, but
that's the thing. Like, if the Big 12 and the Pac-12 for the next 10 years continuously are left out of the playoff or consideration each year, do you think they consider something?
They'll
like
do
this?
something. Yeah, if it gets to the point where a team from whatever conference it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to get into the playoff, if that's what we get to, not because of just talent, just because of brand recognition, then yes. Yeah. Those other conferences will take action. They'll do something.
I don't think you're ever going to get to that point, though, because let's say we started the playoff 10 years ago, then we would have just assumed it was going to be a foregone conclusion that Texas and Florida were always going to make the college football playoff, and neither of those teams have sniffed it yet.
I'm talking about like conferences. Like, look at the Pac-12. They made the playoff 1 year in, 5 years? And then the Big 12's had Oklahoma, and that's about it. Like, I don't know. It just...
Have better football teams.
Easier said than
It's not my fault your conference sucks at football.
You got to find ways to get around that.
I don't know. It was an interesting article. Like I said, nothing will come of this because it's already been. They decided that they weren't going to go through with it. So it was suggested.
It was suggested.
Interesting conversation. I think overall non-conference scheduling is getting a lot better, but you'll continue to see tweaks.
Hopefully, better games and road games too.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
it's just
Alabama
tough for fan
started doing
bases. That's the issue. It's tough for fan bases when you have home of homes.
A lot of money involved.
Long ways away. But that's it. Out of time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Always fun bringing you another edition of After Further Review. Thanks so much to Alex and Daniel for joining us on this week's episode. For Bradley, Evan, and myself, we'll see you next time.